All right, friends and neighbors, welcome back. It is the aftermath show, the live stream. I'm going to give you my notes on Chiefs versus Raiders, what happened, what didn't happen, and why it happened. Uh, there's a lot to go over. There's a good amount of blame to be put around. I know you're all disappointed about this first loss of the season. Don't take it too hard. Nobody goes undefeated in this league anymore, so it's not the end of the world. But there are certainly some things that they definitely need to fix, and we're going to talk about them right here today. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like, the sub, the bell notification, so you're with us when we move forward as this Chiefs team tries to regroup. They're definitely going to have to. Aaron Morrow is here. He is our mod. If you guys have some trouble, see the strong man, and Aaron will take care of you. Lots to go over here. Again, we're going to do the Monday night Q&A tomorrow night. I will have a chance to rewatch the game. By then, we won't have the All-22 yet, but I will have seen it a second time. And so today is what I'm going off of, the notes that I took during the game. This is what I do, is just jot things down as I go through my observations. Just recorded the podcast a little bit ago, post-game with Matt Derrick. We got that done. So this is me ruminating on it. After the second watch tomorrow night, I'll be able to answer your questions better. If you want to support the channel, hit that super chat right now. Go ahead and throw stuff in there. Really appreciate all the support that you guys have shown over the years. And I know there's a bunch of new folks too. So that's the easiest way. That and the store down below that'll be in the show notes. You can always support the channel that way. We will have, by the numbers later in the week, the statistical analytics breakdown. We will have film rooms, if not one, but two. Chiefs did get a little bit of information during the game, of all things, that their game against the Bills has now been slated back. It's going to be Monday night, but early. So you're going to have to get off a little bit early if you want to see that, or hit the recorder. So we're going to have a run up to that. So look for the game plan video to come out Sunday night next week. So we have you covered the whole 9 yards all the way around. Getting started. And I saw some chat earlier about the run game, and I'm going to tell you what the run game is and isn't. It isn't a problem. They did a very good job early. You saw them hit those pitches, hit those counter tosses. They did exactly what I told you last week they had to do, is get Clyde in space out on the edge early. And it went well to begin with. The problem is they didn't like the way the offense was going, and Andy got in a little bit of a hole because they ran 11 times total that wasn't Patrick scrambling. 7 of them were in the first half. They didn't even try in the second half. And it's one thing if you want to say, hey, they weren't running inside well. No, they weren't. They didn't even hardly try. When they did, they didn't have a whole lot of success. But it has to be continue to build off of that pitch game. You come back inside. You run counter the other way. You run weak a little bit. The problem is you had too many short possessions. And that leads to the defense being wore out, which happened again. Now, the other thing, obviously, early in the game, Osemele gets hurt. That was a beautiful pass that Osemele actually got called back because of the hold. And you can't really blame Patrick for that. It was clearly the Raiders defense showed up to get more pass rush than the Chiefs offensive line showed up to stop them. That's disheartening. It is difficult, and quite frankly, it's a little bit frustrating because you should have gotten your act together after last week. In all frankness, that is really should have been the wake-up call. That is really what should have driven you. They didn't show up. Now, I can't say that all this back and forth and changing times and all the stuff going, I can't say that that's not a distraction, because it is. How much of it is, that is determined by the coaching staff. Now, we found out also this weekend that one of the Chiefs' assistant strength conditioning coaches, now that's a job that I used to perform at the college level. You have a lot of interaction with players when you're an assistant. The head strength conditioning coach sets out the program, may instruct some of the stars, but the bulk of the guys, us assistants, would have to take care of. The problem is it's about when and how much contact they had. Clearly, they moved forward with the game, but I would not be, frankly, surprised to find out that there are guys on this team that are sick, and they might show up here in further testing later in the week. They certainly looked like the whole team was a little bit lethargic. They didn't quite seem to be able to get up. So it's either physical or it's mental. That comes back to the coaching staff, getting them prepared, shutting out the noise, shutting out the changes in game time. That's difficult. So either way, what you saw from Assembly right there at the top with that long pass that got called back, that was the fact that they were not as prepared. They were not ready to go at that very moment as much as the defense was from the Raiders. Now, I know you guys have been giving me static, and there's been some Raider fans in here giving me static as well, that I give the Raiders too much credit, that John Gruden's not as good as I think he is. Well, he kind of proved it today. And Derek Carr, if you set him up and you give him a couple of mistakes, he'll capitalize. Now, Derek Carr did not create those touchdowns. We'll talk about why they were created here in a little bit. I want to kind of go in order. I'm still in the first quarter here. So Remmers comes in for Osemele, and I thought for the first half it looked fine. I thought he got a little bit wore down there later in the game, and some of that pressure was coming. But they didn't get as much run possibility there as well. But for being the sixth lineman, I thought Remmers had a decent game. I'm gonna have to watch that really carefully on the rewatch. So I'll do that, and I'll check out the All-22 as well. So they went after Fenton early, and I thought for the most part he stood up. That play that Ruggs caught off of his hat, I can't really give him any static for that at all, because he was doing that nickel drop to the two deep zone. And Ruggs is a guy that should have run away from him. The ball was just a touch under, not much. And Fenton actually got on his horse and got back there. I was really happy with that. He played through the guy's arms and tried to rip it. That was just a heck of a play from Henry Ruggs. And for those of you that were around here for draft season, you remember how high I was on Ruggs and how I told you if he ended up in the Chiefs offense, that would have been really scary. And the Chiefs agreed with me. They had heavy interest in him as well. Now, this is not an endorsement of this company. It just happens to be the cup I'm drinking out of. So my voice is starting to go a little bit. So it's an afternoon tea instead of beers for me. Continuing, Waller got a couple of targets, but Breezy jumped back on them. He missed a tackle here and there. I think he did get beaten coverage later in the game, but he also made a couple of really nice plays coming up in the run game, gotten that interception. I thought Bashaud Breeland walked back into the defense pretty well. I can't say the same thing for Charvarius Ward. I'm not sure what's up with him. I saw him take a hit, get landed on early in the game on that hand. So I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt that Charvarius Ward's hands bothering him. That was part of the problem, because you saw Fenton started taking reps on first and second down. Ward would only come in when they went to 3 on third in the 11 in the bigger wide receiver groups. Excuse me, guys. The broadcast did a big job playing up Littleton on Kelsey. It's not really that much of a matchup, so I was surprised they kept going back to it. The Hill TD, I'm pretty sure that was the second time they ran that game, and it did pay off again. So good for Reed for coming back for a good play design and rerunning it again. Normally, you can kind of get teams going because they know that he's going to show you one thing and then he's going to riff off of it, right? So if you come back with the same thing, sometimes you can catch him by surprise. Now they move on to the next quarter, and this is where it gets tricky, because the Aguilar touchdown is on Tyrann Mathieu. Let's not beat around the bush. I'm sure Tyron's saying it right now in a post-game press conference too. He either had something physical happen when he went to cut to get deep, or he just misjudged how much head of speed Aguilar had gotten up, because he missed that coverage. That was on him. He wasn't alone. He had a holding call later. He was a little bit off. This is becoming a key. Let me get to two other things first. Sammy got hurt. Big hamstring pull. Really upset to see that, because I thought he was past that. I thought he had gotten himself in shape enough. And then Kaiser. I know everybody's really high on Nick Kaiser doing things better. That was preseason. He's shown the last couple of weeks he's not quite ready for prime time. And I'm a little bit concerned about it. I don't know what's going on with Ricky Seals-Jones. I don't know if it's a permanent injury or something he's not recovering from, but we definitely need to see more from him. Hopefully they can get him on the field. And that brings us to the Ruggs big plays. The TD was completely on Dan Sorensen. And this is what happens when you leave Dan Sorensen as the high safety by himself. He can't do that. He's not instinctual enough to protect back. I think that's the one where he came up when he should not have. Something we saw later from Tedrick Thompson, who also in a cover 2 bid up and left his half of the deep field open. That's where another deep play went. I think that was the one to Renfro. So you see what is usually a strength for the Chiefs today against the Raiders was a weakness. The safety play was not good all the way across. Juan Thornhill had a couple of nice plays early. For the most part, he's the only safety that played up to his billing today. That's a problem, especially when your defensive captain is one of those safeties. Now, that said, it's one game. And I'm sure Tyrann Mathieu, if anyone, will be all over the fact that they let their guard down against these guys and they let them get into them, gave them a couple of body blows that they couldn't recover from. That's not going to be the end of the day, the end of the season or anything like that. But they got to get that figured out because the corners aren't good enough for the safeties to play badly. That's what you saw today. What we've seen in the last few games is that when the corners get beat, the safeties are there to help them out over the top. That was not the case today. Give credit to John Gruden for detecting how to attack them and forcing them into a couple of reads that really cost them. Dan Sorensen, again, he can play up close. He missed a coverage against Waller, who's a very athletic tight end. But again, he was playing close, but he didn't get his hands on him. So you're not setting Dan Sorensen up to do what he does well. You're not letting him be what he needs to be. And then when nobody's performing but Juan Thornhill out of 4 guys at the same position group, that's something that's hard to recover from. So between the penalties, there were a ton of them today, calling back multiple touchdowns, and then the safeties giving up multiple touchdowns. This should have been a 14-point game, Chiefs. It shouldn't have been a problem, but they just didn't show up. Patrick Mahomes was forcing the ball as well. The interception certainly was, but there are other times where he's just forcing things in because he's frustrated. There's enough guys back there, and he's getting flushed out of the pocket against a pass rush that should not be able to rattle him. But the offensive line was not firing, and part of that's with Osemele out. I get that, but they were getting way too much pressure with just 4 guys. It's ridiculous. You have to be able to protect Mahomes better than that. He can't bail you out every time because when he gets out on the run and there's 7 or 8 guys back there, it becomes very difficult to hit your targets. He missed a number of throws as well. Just flat out short-armed it over the top, threw it behind a couple of guys a couple of times. You can't let only Patrick be your savior. And I think that's what this team sometimes, when they get comfortable, they start to feel like, well, whatever we do, Patrick's going to bail us out. You can't necessarily do that. A couple of things. Hit that. On the bright side, Taco Charlton had a couple of nice pass rushes. He hit that cross chop again. It almost worked. That's not something that's going to pay off every time, but it's going to keep going. Willie had an up and down game, but I think for the most part, you saw what I showed you in the film room last week where he stood up a guard. He did that a number of times again this game. He also got run over a couple of times. So it's not consistent yet. I think that's the big problem. I think if Hitch is hurt and has to miss time, I think you just have to go with Willie. I don't think you can afford to put Ben Neiman out there in coverage over and over and over again. It seems like Ben does better this season. Unlike last year where he was good in space, he does better at the line of scrimmage. He had a pass rush where he hit the passer once, and that was really good. He and Damian Wilson seem to be good in that Sam role like Reggie played last year, where he walks up to the line of scrimmage and he's as much of a pass rusher or an edge setter as anything else. So that's really the big key. In space, I think it's got to be Willie at this point. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to have plays where he does get beat, physically even. I think he's stronger than we saw on film in college. And quite frankly, I think you have to roll with him. You have to take your chances because the linebacker play is not good. And that's the problem. Everything in the center today was off. The safeties were off. The linebackers were off. The offensive line was getting pressure, and the quarterback, everything straight down the middle of the field was off today. You can't have that. You don't win games when that happens. And this is clearly a reason why. Let's see. A couple of other notes. Again, with Mathieu and the safety stuff, there were a couple of other little things. I thought Fenton had a down play. I thought he had a couple of really good plays. Ward, again, I think was hurt. Brashad was there. And I'd like to see him more. I didn't see Keys get in, but I think it's time where they got to get him a couple of snaps here or there. One thing, and I showed you this with Ruggs preseason, and I told you about Jarius Sneed preseason, pre-draft. They need Sneed back. Sneed can run with Ruggs. This is going to be a thing. It's no coincidence that the Raiders won the first 2 games that Ruggs played in, and they lost the second 2 that he sat, and now they won again. That dimension to that offense is formidable. You need somebody that can turn and run with him, and L'Jarius Sneed is the only DB that can. That's it. It was close if maybe Ward or Tyron could do it, but clearly not enough. So when it comes back around, when you get to the point where it's Raiders week again, and they get to go to Allegiant and check out that new stadium, make sure that in the back of your mind, you're checking on whether Sneed's going to be in the game or not, because it's going to be a turning point. It's not something that they can just let roll, because nobody else can turn and run with him. And quite frankly, I'm surprised they didn't go back to him more. I'm going to have to see if Spags changed some of the shells to try and guard him more. But quite frankly, I think that was a missed opportunity, because he can run away from just too many people. You can get the run game fixed if you sell out and you hit your actual assignments. I saw too many guys either passively going for the ball carrier or not going anywhere at all, Anthony Hitchens, standing pat in the hole or trying to, and letting offensive linemen wash them out. The linebacker play is atrocious, and it's frustrating me, because as a guy who comes from that position back in the day, you guys know I played a little fullback, I played a little linebacker. These are the two things. These are the core for me. I don't like to see it, because even though it's a passing league, you can see that if you don't have linebacker play, you get run on, you get tacked down, you get wore out, and then your DBs get attacked and they give things up. There's just no way around it. Nobody's that great for 60 minutes when you're playing that many snaps. In fact, I'd have to see. I don't know how many total plays were run on each side. I have the stat sheet here. Hold on. There were quite a number, though. That's all I know. Looks like the Raiders ran. Oh, it was very even, actually. They ran 67 plays. The Chiefs ran 66. But still, 67 plays is quite a high number when you're having to run down the field a lot. And that's what the DB situation became late in the game. Just a couple of missed opportunities. At the end of the day, it felt like they weren't quite ready. They were a little distracted and looked a little bit past them, almost like the Chargers. And maybe that's my fault too, because I bought into the whole streak of the AFC West. That's come to a conclusion now. He's 28-3 at this point. So it's not as good as it was yesterday. Another bright spot. Byron Pringle had a really nice play on the one target he received. I believe that was the only target. I'll check that right now. But that is an important thing. Yeah, one target. And it's not just that he made a nice catch. It's that he turned and he got yardage after the catch. He did what they've been questioning, because that's what all the other Chiefs receivers do, is they take the pass and they get yak. I think that was really, really important, especially because it looked like the severity of Sammy Watkins' injury is going to keep him out for a while. So I want to see Byron Pringle get more snaps. You saw Demarcus Robinson have a couple nice blocks. You also saw him not get his feet in bounds, not do a couple of things that I think maybe somebody else deserves a chance to try to do. But Cole is still pretty slight, but he took a beating today and he popped right back up. I don't know that he's ready to be a fight off the line of scrimmage wide receiver, but he certainly has more in him. I still feel like this is his season to break out. So we're going to see if he can get there. I will not put it past him. So at that point, I didn't see anything bad from Pennell, but he didn't stand out either. I think this team really misses Colin Saunders as well when it comes to just a change-up. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him back as well. Sneed, by the way, you guys, it's going to be a while. It's going to be another 5 to 9 weeks. We have no update on his progression yet. It could be a small thing. It could be a big thing. that clavicle is very difficult. It's very painful. And quite frankly, if you come back too early, it's just going to get re-injured like that. So we're not going to push for Snead to get back, but they do need him eventually. So we'll see what comes of it. I'll be able to answer all your questions tomorrow night. I'll rewatch tonight before then. So, keep your chin up. It's one game, but definitely have to keep your edge in order to win games in this league. So we'll get back with you guys tomorrow. Thanks for hanging in here tonight. Keep your chins up. Check out the Locked On Chiefs podcast. We'll have more information for you there. Did almost half an hour with Matt Derrick here a little bit ago. So check that out. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. Have a good one. Take care.